My name is Niki Woehler. Welcome to my studio in Scottsdale, Arizona.
You were born in Canada and
I was, Toronto.
you studied broadcasting.
I did. I studied broadcasting. I kind of grew up in the industry. My mother was in advertising. So I studied marketing and advertising, and I was in that business for almost 30 years. I actually started at 16. I was a copywriter. And then after, several years, I decided to do what I really, really loved, and that was art. But my story, how I got here, is really incredibly interesting. I think it's divine, actually.
How did you discover art and your medium?
So this is where it's all crazy. I actually hated art in school. I used to climb out the window in art class or raise my hand and say, can I go to the restroom? And I wouldn't come back until the end of class. I really hated art. And I think, in retrospect, I think it's because they wanted me to color inside of the lines, and I don't like to color inside of lines. So it happened, I was in my mid to late 20s, and a coworker went to Las Vegas for the weekend and partied all weekend and was driving home. And instead of pulling over when he got tired to take a nap, he fell asleep at the wheel and he died. His name was Michael. And so it was a beautiful Arizona day, and I was coming home from Michael's funeral. And at the time I had no kids, so I had a little convertible roadster. And so the roof was down on my car, and I was looking up at the sky, and I said, Michael, you're such an idiot. Like, you should be coming for a joyride, not, I shouldn't be coming back from your funeral. And I heard this little voice in my head, and it said, turn in. And so I looked over, and there was a Michael's. And here in the USA, Michael's is a place where you go and buy art supplies, craft supplies, framing. Like, it's just like a big giant supply store for creatives. For whatever reason, I actually pulled my car in, and I walked into the store, and I can't explain it, but I bought 3 canvases and a bunch of paints and a bunch of brushes, and I took them home. And so that day I painted my very first painting. And it so happened that my next door neighbor was an art professor at the university here. So I knocked on her door and I said, would you just come over and take a look at what I painted? First painting ever. I would love, some pointers and critique and your opinion. So she said, okay. And she came in and she looked at the painting and she said, that's your first painting? And I said, yeah. And she said, oh. And she turned around and she started to walk away, and I was laughing. I'm like, is it that bad? And she said, no, it's that good. The only thing I want to tell you is you have a gift. Keep painting. I don't want to influence you in any other way other than to tell you to keep painting. And so I painted 2 more paintings, kind of one after the other. And but right after that, I had my first child, and then I had my second child quickly after that, and then my third child quickly after that. I had 3 kids, 3 and under at one point, and no family in town to help. It was just not my ex-husband, but my husband and I at the time taking care of all of these kids, and I had a full-time job. There was just no time for painting, so I packed up all the supplies and I put them up in the attic, and that was that for probably close to 10 years by the time, I was done, with kids being really little and having, some time to myself. But once they did get a little bit older and a little more self-sufficient, then I pulled out the paints again, got some more canvases, and just started playing. I chose acrylic in the beginning because it's fast drying, because I don't have the patience or temperament for oil, especially when you're trying to, paint quickly because you don't have that much time, or you've got, kids running around and you can't have a wet painting for 4 months and, think that they're going to touch it or whatever. So I started with acrylic, plus, you know, the non-toxicity of the whole thing. So I just started painting just for myself. And, you know, I didn't really tell anybody that I painted. It was kind of, if you came to my house, you knew I painted because my art was on my walls. But other than that, it was like my little secret. It was just my happy place and thing, you know, what I did for peace of mind at the end of every day or on weekends when I had some spare time. And then flash forward, well, about 12 years ago now, one of my clients, by then I owned my own little boutique ad agency. And one of my clients, I had stayed home from work that day to paint. I just was in the mood to paint. And one of my clients was calling. You know, I picked up the phone, but I was kind of like, because I was covered in paint. And so it was kind of like, I'm sure she could, you know, tell that I was a little discombobulated when I picked up the phone. And she's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm painting. And she said, your walls? Honey, there's people for that. And I said, no, not my walls. I'm painting a painting. And she said, well, I didn't know you painted. And I said, well, I do. And she said, well, why didn't I know that? And I said, because I don't tell anybody. It's just for me. And she said, send me a photo. And I said, no. And she said, send me a photo of, like, send me your work. And I said, no. And she said, send me a photo or you're fired. So I sent her some photos of some of my work. And the next thing I know, she sent me back a photo and it was a blank wall. And she said, you're amazing. Paint me something. So long story short, I painted her a triptych and she loved it. And then she ended up commissioning 2 more, which blew my mind. So I painted 2 more for her and then she loved those. And so after we installed those, she looked at me and she said, you know, you're really great at marketing. She said, but this is what you're supposed to be doing. And if you aren't an artist for a living, you're an idiot. This is what you're meant for. And so as I was driving home from her house, I was, you know, thinking about her words and I thought, all right, Niki, be brave. 20 seconds, just be brave. So when I got home, I took a photo of one of my paintings on my wall and I put it up on Facebook just for commentary, just to let people know this is what I'm doing and it's fun for me. And next thing I know, the painting sold in under an hour. And I was like, wait, what? So I thought, well, let's try that again. That was fun. So I took a photo of another painting and I popped it up and the same thing happened. It sold in under an hour. And so I looked up and I said, okay, you have my attention now. Like, I get it. I hear what you're trying to say to me. So I tell you what, I'm going to put one more painting up. And if the same thing happens, I'll be an artist for a living. Not expecting that that was going to happen, like, right? And it happened. So a promise is a promise. I made good. And within 30 days, I had shut down my agency and I proclaimed myself a full-time artist. And I've never looked back since. It's been unbelievable.
How did your palette evolve over time?
Well, obviously in the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. It's completely evolved. I mean, I actually have paintings number 1 and number 2 here. They're in my studio, in my storage area. If, you know, originally it all started super bright colors and I didn't know how to use white or not white, sorry, water. You know, there was just all, and I wasn't actually abstract in the beginning either. So my palette is, and my techniques have completely evolved over time and they're still evolving. Like they evolve daily. You know, I'm an abstract artist and yet yesterday, you know, I have a commission client who wanted a lion embedded within his painting. So actually yesterday I painted my first lion and I was shocked. It's actually pretty good. I mean, I'm surprised. I surprised myself completely. You know, it's still evolving. For myself, I typically favor neutrals. I love neutrals. To me, they're calming. I love anything that looks nature inspired. So whether it's rock or ocean or, you know, metal that's been weathered and patinaed by, you know, the elements. Those are the colors that I am gravitated, you know, or I gravitate to. But I'm about 85 to 90% commission work at this point. There's absolutely times where the color palette is dictated by the client and whether it's something, I'm comfortable with or not. So my personal choice, neutrals.
Behind you, is that a commission?
Nope, that is one that I did just for myself. I just painted. So in my gallery / studio, you'll see a combination of work that when I want to paint something that I just need to get out, it's up on the walls. But then you'll also see pieces that are, in the works, commissions for clients as well. I have a couple that I'm working, 3 right now that I'm working on. So it's kind of a combo. And then, but I also have them up as examples. I work with a lot of interior designers. I work with a lot of clients just direct. And so you have to have, things on your wall for them to take a look at so that they know what they like and what they don't like. And they can say, oh my gosh, I love that. I love the color palette of that, but I need it bigger, or I need it smaller, or, I need, 5 panels, like whatever it is that we dream up together. So you have to have examples, but I also have things that I have to just get out. Like I feel it and here I need to paint. And sometimes I need to paint just for me, not for, clients always.
Would you like to share with us some of your work?
So you can see that's very stone inspired. This is a commission I'm working on right now. So they wanted an Arizona sunset. So it's 15 feet wide and 13 feet tall. And these pigments I actually brought back from Japan. So I flew to Japan specifically to get the pigments for this painting that they wanted. So you can sort of see they wanted an Arizona sunset. But then you can see here. And then I've got and then this is some of, so I also do work on plexiglass. So that's actually on plexi. So I work on canvas, wood panels, aluminum panels, and plexi panels. This is on wood. So I love large scale. Large scale is my happy place. And this is a little more geometric. This is one of my most recent ones. I love it. It took me a year to do.
Is that mixed media?
Yep. But I mean, it's all paint, but it's enamel, acrylic, pigments. What else is in there? So it's just all different kinds of paint. This one's actually sold. It's going. This has got a lot of texture to it. I don't know if you can see. And then, so here's something super interesting because I love to paint giant paintings. I actually had this built for me. So during COVID, all the Hollywood studios were closed down. And so because I love to paint these enormous paintings, I can't get to the middle of them. So it's actually, I was inspired by Mission Impossible when Tom Cruise came down from the ceiling on that thing. So it's actually completely motorized and it's on a remote control system, and the harness was built just specifically for me. And so you can see the motor on the other side of the room, motor up there. And so I lay in the harness and it drops down and it moves forward and backward. And because it hangs from a single point, it spins as well. So I can do my huge, huge canvases on that. Yeah. So this is a commission that I'm also working on down here, and it's for the same people that I'm actually doing the big giant Arizona sunset for. But then here's an example of when I do installations. of the smaller resin pieces. And then there's some big ones. So this is my space.
How do you research your art? For example, you said that the client wanted to do Arizona sunset and you went all the way to Japan. How did you decide that you should go there?
Well, for the paint pigments, because the colors that they wanted. So when I'm working with the colors, they wanted reds and oranges. Arizona sunsets are reds, oranges, whites, pinks, but they have to stay crisp. They can't, when you're working with regular paint, it will bleed into it. And I didn't want the bleeding. So I knew of this store in Japan called Pigment, and there they have 5,000 paint pigments. And some of them are actually made out of stone. So they grind up the stone. And my guess, I didn't know for sure, but my guess was that they wouldn't disperse the same way that a regular paint pigment would. And I thought, well, you know what? I've always wanted to go to Japan, especially during Sakura. I've always wanted to go to the pigment store. And I really want, part of when I do commissions for clients, I want to give them something that they don't get anywhere else. I want it to have that, like, wow, how many people fly all the way to Japan to across the country or across the globe to pick up paint specifically for your painting. I was like, you know what? Let's just go. I want to go to Pigment. I want to see Sakura. I want this to be a magical experience because it translates into the art. Everything I paint from feeling. When I'm feeling magical, the work is magical. And when I'm feeling inspired and excited, that's what happens with the art. And it worked. For me, I paint from feeling. Everything is feeling. I get myself into that feeling.
You spoke about Michael. Did you do a piece for him?
No, well, I did when that day. So the first painting that I did was really not for him, but it was kind of in honor of him, right? It was like, I don't know, I can't explain it, right? It was like, all right, Michael, this was your idea, right? So here we go. I actually have that painting. Would you like to see it?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. So that was my first painting. Sort of Picasso-esque.
So you did figurative work.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, in my entire professional career, I have done 2 paintings that are somewhat realistic. I did one, it's called The Sleeping Lady, and it was an abstracted, it looks like an aerial view of a mountain, but in the pose of a sleeping woman with kind of snow around. But it definitely looks like a sleeping lady. And then I did, because I was inspired, so I've been to Banff a few times now, and I love Banff. And Banff and Lake Louise is just incredible. So because it was so inspiring for me and created so much emotion within me, I was able to paint that. And I mean, the painting was beautiful, but it was an abstracted version. Like I never try to get an exact realistic version because I'm just not a realism painter. I stay in my wheelhouse for the most part.
You have a gallery here at home, and you also show in other galleries.
I do. Just a couple now. I used to show in a lot more galleries, but once I had this space, I've got 3,000 square feet here, and I've been very, very fortunate that the street is great. I get a lot of people will walk in, but I've got a pretty strong clientele group. And so I found that it's just kind of easier for me to keep the majority of my work here. But I do still have work in a gallery in Aspen, which is one of the first ones who I started working with, and she's amazing. There I am her most, I would say, novice artist. She's got a lot of blue chip there I hang next to Stella and Motherwell and, Hijack and Cecil Touchon, like some of the biggest names out there. So I'm really honored, like incredibly honored to be in that gallery. And then I've got representation in Madrid at Van Gogh. For the most part, that's about it for galleries. I really am kind of keeping it all in-house.
Your children, are they following in your footsteps?
No, they're not, but it's still early. I actually have two, so I've got three children. My oldest is scientific. He just got his master's in AI, which I guess is an art form of its own. And then my other two, I have one who's going into film. Where she's in film. She had won 2 film festivals for movies that she wrote and directed by the time she was 17. So she is very creative. She's living her life creatively. And then my middle child is actually an incredible artist. I mean, talk about an ability to paint realistically. It's mind-blowing. That's not his passion. And so I'm certainly not going to push him, but who knows? Who knows what life brings? I mean, I didn't jump into art until I was 40. So you never know.
Do you have time to socialize with other artists?
I socialize. I wouldn't say that I socialize with a lot of other artists. Scottsdale is a really interesting place in that manner. Artists kind of don't socialize with each other here. We all kind of have our own lives and, our own friends and our own family. And, there's a few that I know that I absolutely adore. And, sometimes I'll go into their studio and sit and have a cup of coffee and say hi, or they'll, my door will open and be like, hey, how are you? And they'll come in and sit and have a cup of coffee and we'll chat, but we don't really hang out. No, which I guess is good. I mean, for me, for the longest time, I didn't even look up other artists because when I was a brand new artist and just starting out, I didn't even want in my own head to think I was copying anybody else. I needed everything I did to be completely mine with zero inspiration from anybody other than Mother Nature. Like that was it. That's where I got my inspiration. Walking down the street, I would see, a tree bark that was, crazy and burnt and I would snap photos. Like that's where my inspiration came from. And I never felt bad about, trying to mimic Mother Nature, but I definitely didn't want to draw from anybody else.
You mentioned that your artwork at this point is often dictated by the clients because most of it's commission work.
The color palette will be, the size will be, but I'm at the point in my career where I am confident enough in my abilities that I ask my clients, like, we can talk about color palette. We can talk about, one of the questions the first question I ask is, how do you want this painting to feel? What do you want to feel when you look at it? Give me one word. Do you want it to feel bold? Do you want it to feel serene? Do you want it to feel dramatic? Do you want it to feel relaxing, calming, alive, like brilliant? What do you want it to feel? And then I ask them to let me do my thing. I ask them to look through, kind of my catalog of existing or previous works. Tell me what they love. Tell me what they don't love, right? Knowing what they don't love is equally as important as knowing what they love. And if they don't like something, tell me what they don't like about it. Or if they love something, what do they love about it? Like, what are the things within my work? Because my work is so diverse. I mean, it's so different. So I want to know, what do you love the fact that that's flowy, or do you like the angularness of that? Like, what is it? And so I try to delve into their brains and figure out what they love, right? Because for me, that's what it's about. The happiest outcome for me is when my clients cry, like from joy, right? When that painting goes up on the wall and I see tears, I know I've done a great job. And that's when I feel like, yay, right? So I ask a lot of questions, but I also ask my clients to trust me and to let me paint within their size parameters and within the color palette, let me do what I do and trust me. And so far it's never backfired. It's always, when they trust me, they get something beautiful.
Are you painting for both private clients and businesses or corporations?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I'll paint for corporations, I paint for private clients, I paint for interior designers who represent the clients. I even have galleries that I used to work with or have my art in, and they will call me and say, okay, we have a client, they love your work. Will you take on this commission? This is what they want. And I do all the time. So I actually love commissions. I know a lot of artists don't, but I love them. I love them because I get to see a photo of where it's going to go most of the time. So I get to see the space, and most of the time they send me video. So I get to see the environment. 98% of the time I actually get to know the clients whose home it's going to be in. And I make a friend and we get to know each other, and I am allowed to pick up their ethos and their vibe. And, that's why I think the art always works, because I get to know them. And so that translates, I think, onto the canvas. So for the most part, I mean, I paint, but I also do for corporations, but at the same time, I get to know the ethos of the corporation and the feel for what they do and what they want the art to say to anybody who walks in the door.
At the very end, do you go in situ to actually see the painting in the space?
Oh yeah, I'm at most installations, unless they're, across the globe. But if they're here in town, I'm always at the installation. And I've been to installations across the country too, depending on if timetables work and schedules. If not, most of the time the client will FaceTime me while the painting is going up. And then so we're doing it together, just not in person.
You visited Japan. What impressed you the most over there?
Oh, Japan. Oh my goodness. I fell in love with Japan. There's so much to love there. The people, first and foremost, they are so kind, so welcoming, just absolutely lovely. I mean, you can ask a perfect stranger where the ladies' room is, and they don't just tell you. They stop what they're doing and they walk you to it. Everybody's just really kind. Tokyo is obviously impressive, just as a large city, but Kyoto really had my heart. Kyoto, I mean, it just, it's never been bombed in any of the wars, and it doesn't have the earthquakes like Tokyo does. So it's still like what you would imagine Japan is, with the architecture and the alleyways, and it still is. So for me, that was absolutely mind-blowing. I just loved Kyoto.
You spoke about Pigment, the store.
Uh-huh.
What is the major difference between their pigments and, the North American pigments?
I don't even know where to start with that question, because if you walk in there, they have 5,000 paint pigments in jars on the wall. And it's everything from, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I was like a kid I went twice. I was like a kid in a candy store. They have every color imaginable. And then they have the size of the pigment is then like they have 15 or 20 different pigment sizes within those colors. And then some of them are chemically made and some of them are naturally made. And so for what I do, in my canvas work, I can use something that's chemically made, but in my resin work, I cannot, because you'll have the reaction. So it has to be, more natural. To me, it was just mind blowing. My first question when I walked in is, if I wanted to buy every single bottle in here and just clear your wall, what would that cost me? And so they said about $2 million. I was like, okay, so I'll just take 100 grams of that and 100 grams of that. And to me, it was just, I've never seen color available like that. And so many options. I mean, it's just mind blowing. I'm dying to go back.
What are you working on right now? You showed us something.
So right now I'm working on 3 different commissions. So I showed you it's a triptych, and they wanted an Arizona sunset. So that is 15 feet wide and 13 feet tall. And then I'm also working, I showed you the blue one. And so that's going in their master bedroom. And I'm using a lot of the pigments actually that I bought in Japan as well. So there's probably 15 different shades of blue on it, all kind of worked in. And for me, it feels like the ocean crashing around, the mountains, and they want something for their bedroom that's very serene, but still alive. And then the other thing that I'm working on is yesterday I did that test panel for the client who wants a lion embedded in his art. So I did a small one just to see if I could pull it off before I started working on his big giant one. So that's what I've got. And then I'm actually working on another piece that's going to go, and it came through actually the Aspen Gallery. And so I'm about to start working on one that's going to head to New York City, and it's 48 inches tall and 110 inches long. So it's going to be a big one as well.
You've come a long way from the girl you were in Toronto.
Yeah, I sure have. It's been an incredible journey. Sometimes I'm speechless. Actually, I'm often speechless. Never would have expected this if somebody had told me 15 years ago that I would be living my life as an artist and that I would have an amazing studio and gallery right on Main Street, and that I would be flying around the world for this and on magazine covers and getting to do what I love every single day. I would have told them they were out of their minds. It's just not even possible. I don't have an artistic bone in my body. And I think, if anything, that should be inspiration for anybody to do whatever it is that they want to do, whatever's in their heart, but they're afraid to do. My advice is, if you love it and it makes you happy while you're doing it, jump. Just forget about the net. I didn't have a net. I was a single mom with 3 kids and with not a single art class, under my belt. And I think when you're doing something for the right reasons and it's really your passion and your joy, I think the universe opens all the doors for you. And it makes things happen. I couldn't be more grateful. I couldn't be more in awe of my life. Honestly, I've never been happier. I've never been more fulfilled. I get to live this incredibly beautiful dream life.
You are a self-taught artist. How did your lifelong experiences influence your art?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I think my lifelong experiences have always been tenacity. I think that's strength. I've overcome a lot of stuff in life. And I think it's kind of just keep going and just, I don't know. I think it just always had a natural, I guess it's a curiosity to see how it's going to end up, and just keep, I don't know. I guess that's a great question. No fear. I think that's it. I think life has taught me, don't be afraid, just go. I mean, and this is art, right? So if I mess up, nobody dies. I'm not a surgeon. I'm not a pilot. I'm not, right? What's the worst that happens? You destroy a canvas and you start again. I mean, that's as bad as it gets, So I think that would be it. I think it's just to have no fear and just try new things and to do what feels right and to trust yourself. Trust yourself. That's another one. Right? Life has taught me to trust myself. I'm trustworthy. I can trust me. So just trust yourself and enjoy it. Have fun. We're here to have fun. We are not put on this planet to toil and to be miserable. We're here. Like, love and joy are primary purposes. And so I think when you're doing what you love and you're happy and you're providing, I love that I get to leave this world a little bit more beautiful than I found it. How cool is that?
Some people might wonder if you stay in touch with Canada since you were born there. Do you have the chance to go and visit?
Oh yeah, I was just in Canada less than a month ago. I went to visit my grandmother and I took my daughter with me, and I don't get there as often as I used to. When my grandma still lived in Toronto, I would visit all the time, but she moved to Calgary. maybe what, 6, 7, 10 years ago now. So I'm not there as often, although I'm still in touch with even my friends from high school. And so I was texting back and forth with a bunch of my girlfriends, and we're trying to come up with a weekend where I can fly in and we can all get together and hang out. So yeah, I still keep in touch. I'm still in touch with my best friend from college. I'm still in touch with my high school friends. I definitely have not forgotten Canada. I miss Toronto very much, very much.
If you were commissioned to paint Canada in an abstract way, what would your palette be?
It would be green, blue, white. It would be natural colors. To me, Canada is just very natural. So it would almost be like from sea to shining sea, right? And that's kind of what it would be, my home and native land. And yeah, it would definitely be silvers and greens and blues and lovely browns and very earthy palette.
You have been in Arizona for over 25 years.
Yeah, I've been here. I've actually now been here longer than Canada, which when I realized that, I was like, no, how did that happen? But I moved here in 93. So it's been a long time. 30 years? Oh my goodness, 30 years.
How would you say that your inclinations and your tastes evolve or change over time?
Oh, I think that that's part. I mean, obviously, we all grow and evolve and change, over time. Age is part of that. Wisdom is part of that. Environment is obviously part of that. I don't know. I think we just, as we all age, I think we all mellow out a little bit. I think we, become a little more introspective. I think we care about the world around us a little bit more the older we get. I would say that Arizona has probably, because it's not nearly as fast paced as Toronto, I would say that Arizona's probably taught me to just relax a little bit. I think relax would probably be, I mean, Toronto's just, go, 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 go. And it's not like that here. So I think that that would probably be the biggest lesson, but it also gave me the environment to get to do this. I don't know if I had lived in Toronto, if I would be doing this. The cost of living here was reasonable enough that when I was starting out and I was giving up income from what I had done my whole life, that I could actually pull it off here. So I'm very grateful. I don't know if I would be an artist if I had stayed in Toronto. I'm quite sure I probably wouldn't have been. But who knows? I don't know, maybe, right? Who knows what the universe has planned? Something might have happened, because I really do think I'm supposed to be doing this. So I don't know.
Niki, how can people find you?
They can find me at so I have a brand new website being built currently, but it's nikiwoehler.com, or I'm on Instagram, Niki Woehler Artist. And Instagram is, for now, while the new website's being built, it is the way more up to date, and I'm on it daily, and lots of fun stuff going on there all the time. My website will be more current. I think we're setting to launch in a couple of weeks. So, but I have an existing one. It's just not nearly as up to date or dynamic as the new one will be. I think what I really love is that I want people to, like, I had it tattooed on my arm. Do what you love, right? Like, that to me is, I think, the most important message that I can get out is that I want people to do what they love. I want people to find their passion. I want people to live it. I want them to believe in themselves. I want them to, because if I can do this, seriously, if I can do this, anybody can do whatever it is that is in their hearts. And I think that for me, 100% is the biggest message that I want to get out there. I think this is why I've been given the life that I've been given. I think it's my job to be out there and tell people, like, don't be afraid, or be afraid. It's okay. Do something that scares the shit out of you every single day. Like, if you're not a little bit afraid, your dreams aren't big enough. Get out there, scare yourself. It's worth it. It's worth it. I have a tattoo, right? I won't send you the photo of the tattoo, but it says, "And she flew." And it's a poem by Guillaume Apollinaire. And basically the poem talks about coming to life's edge and jumping. And it's really, I love that poem. And it's actually in a few of my Instagram posts. Come to the edge. Hold on. Come to the edge, life said. And they said, we can't, we're afraid. And life said, come to the edge. And they said, we can't, we're afraid. And life said, come to the edge. And so they came to the edge, and life pushed them, and they flew.